The Islamabad summit, once celebrated as the miracle on the Indus, has now officially collapsed. What was supposed to be a last-minute diplomatic breakthrough turned into a slow-motion failure that unfolded behind closed doors over 72 intense hours. Pakistan positioned itself as the mediator. Washington came in with pressure. Tehran came in with defiance. And by the end of it, no deal, no roadmap, no de-escalation, just silence and rising risk. So what actually went wrong? This is a forensic breakdown of the 5 critical fault lines that caused the deal to collapse at the 11th hour. At the center of everything was one issue: Iran's nuclear capability. The United States came in with a hardline demand, non-negotiable. They wanted immediate transfer of all uranium enriched above 20%, complete removal to a neutral third-party country, and permanent shutdown of the Fordo enrichment facility. In simple terms, dismantle the core of Iran's nuclear leverage. But Tehran saw this very differently. For Iran, that stockpile isn't just material. It's strategic insurance, the one thing preventing total vulnerability. So their counteroffer was calculated. No physical removal, no dismantling, only a monitored freeze under international supervision. In exchange, full sanctions relief. That's where it broke, because from Washington's perspective, a freeze is reversible, and reversible means unreliable. This wasn't a negotiation, it was a standoff. The next fracture point was even more dangerous, because it wasn't just about policy, it was about global control. Iran introduced a clause labeled regulated passage in the Strait of Hormuz. This is the most critical oil choke point in the world, with nearly 20% of global oil flows passing through it. Iran's demand was the right to inspect commercial vessels entering the Gulf under the justification of preventing military infiltration. On paper, it sounds like security. In reality, it's leverage over global trade. The U.S. saw this as completely unacceptable, because allowing Iran even partial control over maritime inspection means undermining decades of naval dominance. For the Pentagon, this wasn't negotiation. It was strategic surrender. So that clause didn't just get rejected, it hardened positions on both sides. Then came the issue that quietly derailed any remaining progress: Hezbollah. The U.S., backed by Israel, pushed for a regional de-escalation clause demanding that Hezbollah forces withdraw north of the Litani River in Lebanon. This wasn't optional. It was positioned as a requirement for any broader agreement. But Iran refused to even engage on it. Their position was clear. Hezbollah is not a proxy. It's an independent Lebanese entity, and they would not negotiate on its behalf. That alone created tension, but things escalated further when intelligence leaks suggested a possible ground operation was being prepared during the talks. That changed everything, because now diplomacy wasn't just fragile, it was being undermined in real time. Reports indicate that the Iranian delegation didn't argue, they walked out. This is where the situation becomes almost impossible to fix, because beyond policy and demands, there was no trust left. Just weeks before the summit, a decapitation strike eliminated Iran's supreme leader, reshaping the entire diplomatic landscape. The new leadership in Tehran is under intense pressure, especially from IRGC hardliners. Any sign of compromise is not seen as strategy, but as surrender, and politically, that's unacceptable. So even if Iranian diplomats wanted flexibility, they didn't have the room to maneuver. Every concession risked internal backlash, and every agreement risked collapse from within. This wasn't just external negotiation failure, it was internal paralysis. Finally, the deal collapsed on something deceptively simple: timing. Who makes the first move? Iran demanded the immediate unfreezing of $120 billion in assets, and the full lifting of oil sanctions before any military de-escalation. The U.S. demanded the opposite: verified cessation of hostilities before a single dollar moves. This created a perfect deadlock, because both sides were asking the other to take the first risk, and neither trusted the other enough to do it. No sequencing agreement, no phased roadmap, no fallback mechanism. At that point, the deal wasn't delayed, it was dead. Now here's where things get serious. With the collapse of the Islamabad talks, the current ceasefire isn't stable. It's temporary, effectively a dead man walking agreement. The signs of escalation are already visible. CENTCOM has repositioned carrier strike groups back within operational range of Iran's coastline, which is not symbolic, but operational preparation. Meanwhile, global markets reacted instantly, with Brent crude surging back to $128 per barrel as traders priced in conflict. The reality is that the diplomatic window has closed for now. Unless a back-channel agreement emerges in the coming days, this situation is on track to return to full-scale kinetic confrontation, possibly within the week. This wasn't just a failed summit, it was a missed off-ramp from escalation. Every unresolved issue, from nuclear policy to regional control, has now been pushed back into a military context, and that changes everything. If you want to stay ahead of what happens next, not after it breaks, but before it happens, you need to track the signals, not the headlines. Subscribe for precise breakdowns of the moves shaping this conflict. Like the video if you want more deep dive analysis, and share it because most people are only seeing half the picture while the rest is unfolding right now.